All right, hello everybody. I'm Steph Perkins. I'm from Promo in Missouri. I'm going to talk about some of our older adults and how we include them in our programs and a program specifically for them. When you all think about the LGBT community, you probably think of like attractive, young, fit, gay men. I also added a photo of Nick Jonas because anytime I ever Googled anything about attractive gay men, a bunch of pictures of him popped up, so he's clearly relevant. But you also probably think about empowering young people as our next generation of activists. But if you don't think about these folks, then you are missing out. There are 2.7 million LGBT older adults in our country, and that number is expected to double in the next 20 years. And so if you think about the things that have kind of impacted you over your lifetime, it might be Lady Gaga at the Super Bowl, but it could be all of these other things. What are those things? How have they shaped the way that you think about the world, about your government? Because we have an entire generation of people their worldview has been the civil rights movement and the first gay prides and Anita Bryant getting hit in the face with a pie and all of these amazing things, but also things like the Lavender Scare and McCarthyism. And these things absolutely shape the way that they think about the world still today. An entire generation of people whose lives were shaped by a history of discrimination, both legislatively and socially. It wasn't just not okay to be LGBT, it was dangerous and it was illegal in cities and states and by the federal government. And through all of that, these folks were present and authentic. And many of the people who started and held up our movement are still alive. Sometimes we forget that, and they're still alive, and they may feel isolated, and they may feel silenced by us as well. And we need to support our folks in similar and unique ways than the rest of our community. And they need to hear from us that they are heard, and they are seen, and they are valued and important. Because many of these LGBT older adults have to go back in the closet when they seek older adult care, and when they become less independent. Now, we are all spending a lot of time this weekend being sad and angry about the state of politics, and we should be, and that's well-deserved, but we have to remember that we are surrounded all the time by people who have gone through this and much worse before us, and they made it through, and they can help us get through it again. We can all learn a valuable lesson from our LGBT older adults about resiliency, about being up against these odds and still being present and authentic and being who we are and asking for what we deserve. Much of our own history is not in textbooks. Older people were once younger people who lived these full, complex, dynamic lives, and we have to ask them about those and talk to them and hear them and see them. So you don't have to merge with a state SAGE affiliate like we did to do this work. You can partner with SAGE National and the Alzheimer's Association and AARP, and I'm gonna talk super fast now. You're gonna adapt how you reach out to people. How do people want to be reached by mail instead of by email? And also don't make assumptions. People may use email. A lot of the older adults that we talk to use Facebook and smartphones, and they text, and they do all of these things that we think like older adults don't do, but they totally do, and don't make assumptions about those things. How easy is your website to navigate for people who don't regularly use the internet or who don't use the internet on their mobile devices? The language in our movement changes constantly and it evolves quickly. Be prepared to talk about the language and explain language and why it's important, even language that you use as commonplace every single day. You can purposefully create space for LGBT older adults where they're respected and dignified. Look at the spaces you automatically use, your office space, your event spaces. How accessible are they for folks? And I'm not just talking about wheelchairs, although that is still important. I'm also talking about how far away is your parking? Is your parking paid? Do people have to, in order to get to events, do people have to leave their homes after dark and drive both to and from your events in the dark? Do you offer a low income or fixed income ticket alongside your student tickets or your young adult tickets? You can support inclusive policies that affect people across the age spectrum, like healthcare, like Medicaid and Medicare funding, like public accommodations and housing, these things. And also think about where these services come from. In Missouri, a lot of these services for older adults come from the state or they come from religious institutions, which both have their own kind of surprises and challenges when it comes to inclusive politics. But because our community is so focused on age, It can often be hard to get people to support these programs or to even come to these programs. If I told you that our demographic for these programs was 55, a lot of you would be sucking in your breath and worried about it. But it's not often that we always think about aging. But it's not a privilege that everybody is guaranteed. So we should honor it. We should hope that we get to age. We should hope that we get to experience some of these programs. And we hope that they're there. So we have to create them now and honor them and make them available. And above all, do what you do best every day. Have fun with it and have a good time.